everybody, welcome to McFarland Minutes, our weekly podcast hosted by Natalie McFarland, me, and founder and president of McFarland Productions, and Scout Foster, our outreach marketing manager. In these episodes, you can expect deleted scenes, in-depth campaign reviews, project highlights, marketing concepts, book reviews, and a deep dive into the creative process at Rodeo Films, and of course, invaluable lessons on mentorship, leadership, and the business of it all. We are so excited to be releasing our episodes every Sunday as your soft launch to Monday. Hey everybody, welcome to McFarland Minutes, your soft launch to Monday. This week, one of my most interesting contacts and somebody who I've really enjoyed working with over the last 11 years or so is Amy Fast at the PRCA. Amy is help me get your title right. I don't want to screw that up.
I am the Vice President of Broadcast and Digital Media.
That's right. I knew it was a long title. I remember broadcast and vice president, but what order? Anyway, I've had such a pleasure working with you, through producing videos for different sponsors and things like that, and also, getting to see each other at the NFR and things like that. But tell us a little bit about Amy and how you ended up at the PRCA.
Well, I ended up at the PRCA because they had a job opening that I qualified for. It's really the short answer. I don't know. How long do you want me to go on about these things? It's kind of a fun story.
I'd just love to hear your history. You've got a great history at the PRCA.
So it's kind of it's a fun story. So I was working for the Colorado Springs Gazette, and I worked for the Gazette for about 5 years. And at the time, I worked in their digital department, and they were getting ready to roll everything to a corporate level. And I thought that my job at that point was probably going to be somewhat endangered. And I started looking around, and they had this position at the PRCA, and there's a couple of people at the Gazette that had worked there. There were a couple of people that there was kind of this trade back and forth in the media departments between this place and the Gazette. So I went over there and I interviewed, and it was for their webmaster position at the time. And I wasn't super nervous. I knew I was qualified for it, but I'm like, how am I going to convince these people that I should work for them? Because obviously it's a rodeo organization, and I picked up right away from all of my research that, it's a very family-based business, that there's a lot of kind of synergy between all of these parties, and that they would rather hire people that are in the industry than maybe bring people from outside the industry. So I interviewed for the position. I went and got cowboy boots. The outfit that I wore to the interview, I had sewn myself. I was ready for all of the questions. And really, I think the one, other than being qualified, I think that the one that got me there, they're like, well, what are you interested in as far as the Western industry is concerned? What makes this a job that you might want? And my college education actually came in handy at this particular moment. So my senior year in college, I wrote a thesis on Charlie Russell. That was my history thesis, 50 pages for my history, my final history class at the University of Oregon. And it was very much into Charlie Russell and that, vanishing of the old.
I didn't know you were a U of O grad. Go Beavs, sorry.
It's all right. You can dream big.
I know. No, you're gonna whoop us in a couple of, we're recording this pre-Civil War, but I guarantee you we will be whooped by the time this comes out.
I went to the University of Oregon when it sucked. That's how long ago it was.
I was there. I actually did 1 year there in 2008, and we sucked.
Yeah. So we went to the Rose Bowl. I think it was my freshman or sophomore year, and that was like the beginning of the big growth at the University of Oregon in their athletics program, which was a lot of fun. But I mean, I lived in Oregon for 11 years, and U of O was always like, we just joked about it because it never went anywhere. Anyway, this was my senior thesis.
Yeah.
And I told them that I was very much interested in the idea and the nostalgia of American West, all of the things that went into it, all of the stories around it. And of course, I was born in Great Falls. So as a little kid, we went to the C.M. Russell Museum I went to his grave.
Hmm.
It's very
It's very
cool. I went to his
cool.
gravesite at the cemetery. They're just all of these things that is so much part of that community. And I think that if I had to sell
Hmm.
it at that point, I sold that I was invested in the Western lifestyle and an idea that I could be part of this organization. So that's
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Charlie Russell. What made you pick Charlie Russell as your thesis? Just being
it was
from
being
there?
from there and having it be part of my childhood. That was a big part of it. Another one, there was a book that came out that I had read, and I'm going to pronounce his name wrong. John Taliaferro. He had written a biography about Charlie Russell, and I just read that as part of my regular history classes. And it really got me hooked on what Charlie's life was like, where he was as far as an artist was concerned, and really what the world and the space was like in that period of time. And it's reflected so directly in all of his paintings, the transition between an open range to people coming into a more urban lifestyle, and then really the changes in agriculture too, between
Hmm.
people having a more organized structure to raising cattle and having horses and breaking horses and all of those things. It just is a real interesting point in time that he painted. And we still kind of live in that space where we're still transitioning. We still have that open range out there in the world at odds with the rest of what's happening in our universe.
Yeah, for sure. I have two of his paintings in the living room.
Yeah.
They're prints, but I have two of them up there that I got actually at the
Yeah.
museum. So it was a very cool museum to walk through. But so you end up at the PRCA. You've obviously your career has developed over time, and job changes and things like that within the PRCA. Where did you start, and where are you now? And let's talk about that a little
Well, I
bit.
started as webmaster. So I worked on ProRodeo.com. That's what
Mm-hmm.
they hired me to do. And because that was the kind of job I had the Gazette. What was interesting, and I'm sure that all of the people here get tired of me sounding like the little old lady in the corner going, "Do you remember when I started?" So I would hand code rodeo results in HTML and put them on ProRodeo.com. I did all of the stories from the PSN, all of the breaking news to ProRodeo.com because the media department at that time didn't have technical skills. That's what I was hired to do. I was hired to be the technical liaison
Sure.
between the media department and this website. Well, I'm kind of naturally a what's next person. So I just start picking at things and trying to encourage what could be next, what could make us work smarter and not harder. And all of the ideas that I had were supported by the staff here and the things that we work towards. So yeah, I worked on ProRodeo.com. I was technical support for the media department, but it was also a lot of moving everybody in the direction of we needed automated results. We needed all of that stuff in a database. We needed more up to date athlete bios, that this needed to be a real process and not something that the media department got to when they had time. And it really took off from that point of view. At the staff level, when I started here, it was just me, a little IT department, and the media staff. And since then, it's really become its own industry in and of itself. And I can't take
Yeah.
responsibility for all of that, but I know that I was part of the ideas and just the voice in the background going, we're not going to get anywhere if we don't do this. And I got everybody going
Yeah, for
along
sure.
with me. So now it's been since 2012. We've had automated results that go to prorodeo.com. We have a regular rodeo schedule. We're not typing things that come in on fax machines or by FedEx. Because seriously, when I started, rodeo
Yeah, I
results
believe it.
from on the fax machine. I don't even know that we have one anymore. The rodeo secretaries would send us the packets. It could be weeks before we got actual audited rodeo results. So our IT department in the various stages that it has been in has worked on that, and it's never perfect because it is
Sure.
We do have people in the field, and we have the secretary system. And you can imagine at 700 rodeos the number of variables that are out there for getting that kind of data in. But we've come a long way.
Sure.
We have made huge strides.
Yeah.
And that's just one example. There are so many places internally that our business has been improved and streamlined.
Yeah, for sure. I can't tell you the number of times in a month or in a week that I pull up prorodeo.com for something, right? Like it's such a resource. And I think you're absolutely right. In order to move the industry forward, in order for rodeo to be as taken as seriously as the NFL or PGA or any of those, right? Those instantaneous results, those pushes forward were so necessary. And prorodeo.com does a great job now at that from like the spectator's perspective,
I still get all emails because I have the kid.
Oh, sure.
There's always this
I'm sure you do.
There.
I'm sure there's something's not perfect always. When you're managing that many cowboys and that many rodeos and that many secretaries and all of that, something's bound to not be quite right.
All right. No, at least people are watching. That's the point.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us a little bit, the PRCA has really grown even in my time of being part of the PRCA from a card holder perspective and of course a fan as well. But tell us a little bit about the marketing department's evolution and kind of what that's looked like over time. I feel like, the prorodeo.com is a very clear piece of that, but there's so many things that PRCA has done, even the last 10 years that's pretty cool.
Well, .com is really it's a good litmus test for where we've been and all the different versions of it. And I think that the website really propelled management into understanding that the digital age was going to bring us saleable assets and fan interface opportunities and all sorts of things that come with that kind of an attractive digital piece. From an evolution standpoint, we had .com in 2008. I'm like, I got to start a Facebook page. Come on, let's start a Facebook page. I got told no, you can't.
I started my personal Facebook in 2008, so it's
me too.
Nostalgic.
Mine also started in 2008, so I started mine, and of course I have the dogs, and then all the dog people are on there, and I'm like, hey, look at this. We're all over the place talking to each other. We have to have a Facebook page. I got told no. I waited a couple of weeks, got told no. I waited a couple of months, and then I just did it. And then I just did it. And I did Facebook a little while later. I did Instagram. We got Twitter in there somewhere along the way, and then YouTube in 2010. But the whole trick with that particular piece is it's 2008. What do you put on a Facebook page? That feeding that
PRCA is at a rodeo.
Yeah. Well, and if you look at 2008. We were still on time buys with CBS, so we didn't have footage. If we got footage, it came on CD in the mail weeks later.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the PRCA photographers were probably still shooting film.
They were probably still shooting film. There would have been very few on digital at that point. So there's this kind of, we've done it, now what? So we start feeding it, and it starts growing, but it's not growing exponentially. And then, internally, of course, we have the Pro Rodeo Sports News, which is a huge marketing piece for us, and we sell a lot of advertising in it. And it really serves our biggest purpose as an organization, which is we're a membership organization and a sanctioning body. We are always first. Mm-hmm. That is always our primary directive. Everything around that is what supports the membership. So, we're rolling along with that and kind of taking our opportunities where we can. So you can go back and look at our YouTube, and I think it was 2010 that we did this. I'm running around with like a little flip camera, and we're interviewing people in the hallway at the Thomas and Mack and putting it on YouTube. And I got all of the media staff on board with this, and we're just.
If I scroll back far enough, can I find these?
I'm not in any of them. I'm the one holding the camera. You cannot find me. I think it was Marvin Olverding. Sorry, Marvin. He might be watching this. He's moved on to different career, but yeah. So I got everybody on board with that, and we had a really good response. As far as the actual marketing is concerned, though, I mean, we're really towing the line at this point as a membership organization. And it's not so much that we didn't want to expand into these other places, but there's always this juxtaposition between being a membership organization and serving that, and then being, a media entity. And when you don't have the manpower, or you don't have like a longer term vision with it, you just go. You just do what you can with what you've got. And, that was a lot of years, and we're very successful in that regard. Our social media and that whole part of marketing behind it really started to take off around 2016. And I realize that's fast forward 8 years from when I started those platforms, but getting to that point where we had enough content, where I could finally talk management into understanding that investing in that entity in and of itself would bring us money and accessibility. It just took a while. It took a shift in perspectives, a kind of shift in people, and really a look at the landscape of where we wanted to go as far as our interfacing with the rest of the universe.
Sure. Yeah, I think 2016 like tracks for me too, like we managed a couple of Facebook pages and things like that prior to that, but like people really started to get serious about it 2014, 2015, 2016, somewhere right in there. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. It was a very different world even then on social, but I can't imagine PRCA without social.
No, it's
now.
really hard. I
It'd
mean,
be wild.
it used to be my job, and it's not, thank goodness, that is not in the fold for me anymore. We have a full-time social media manager. She does a great job, and we've had a couple of different social media managers, and I did it for that period of time. I did it for 8 or 9 years. I traded it off with other people. The media department and I did it. We all just went after it with the spirit intended. But I think one of the compelling things, if you want to look at like in marketing terms, we feed like the lower part of the marketing funnel very well. The people who are already committed, the people who are already loyal and really invested in what we are as an organization and as a lifestyle. And I don't think till that point we understood that awareness, just simple awareness, the whole top of the marketing funnel would be something that we should invest in going after. And that's really led us to where we are now, that capturing people that are on the fringes of fandom that don't know that they could be really interested or really love rodeo or the Western lifestyle or any part of what we have going on. They just don't know it. And trying to capture those people and bring them in at any level, if we could just bring them down a little further in the marketing funnel, nobody had ever really cast that out and said, this is an initiative that we should take a look at. And at that point, around 2016, 2017, we really went after that idea that we could bring in more people outside of our basic, very loyal fan base that we have, which we love you. We love you all, fans.
It's Yeah, we had a really cool experience actually, and I think you and I actually worked through getting some of the licensed footage and things like that at the time. But we did a documentary, and it was part of a larger series, but it was on the sport of rodeo in the American West, and we had senators, congressmen, that sort of thing in it. We also had a couple of PRCA representatives, Blake Knoll, Shad Mayfield, Chase Brooks, were all in this piece, and we were able to utilize some of the footage and archive of PRCA to be able to make that really come to life. And I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but I was there when we screened it in person. There were 16,000 people watching live online, and there were 4,000 people in the room watching it. Kevin, who's my husband and also works for us, he's our VP of operations, and I were there. And we're waiting in line. We were going to purchase a book from one of the speakers, and we're waiting in line for a book. And these two younger guys, presumably college age, are talking back and forth about the rodeo film that was just previous to this little break that we had. And they were like confessing they had never seen rodeo, and they were kind of talking back and forth about the sport. And they're like, I think I'm a fan now. Like just having been able to watch that and utilize the archive and all and get to know characters like Shad Mayfield and Chase Brooks and Blake Knowles and all those guys, it's pretty easy to make a fan when they really understand and get to see the heart of rodeo. Which I just thought was such a cool moment, just to listen to these guys like develop into a fan, and they didn't know who I was standing behind them, right? So it was pretty cool. But yeah, that was a fun project.
Moment where the light bulb goes off, and I've converted many people. I'd have to say that my advocacy for being a rodeo fan, I've got a long list of people I know that just in the social media space, in my own personal space, dog show people, all of those people, a lot of them, it's really fun to see how they didn't know that this whole world existed. And even employees that we have onboarded that you're like, I don't know where this person is going to find themselves. And then, a couple weeks later, this is just the greatest thing, so I get to work for this and be a part of it.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like onboarding somebody from outside the industry into the PRCA, as an employee, have you seen those reels where it's like week 1 of watching Yellowstone and then it's like 3 weeks and they're like slowly developing into RIP, basically? Like, I feel like the PRCA needs that, but with people who've come to work for you.
I have a couple of examples of that sitting out there. Yeah,
I bet. I love to see
it. Really didn't even happen to me. I mean, so Sherry Compton and Kate Blakely were still working here when I started, and I don't want to call it heckling, but I had some light-hearted influencing from both of those ladies to hone my image a little bit and my cadence with whatever was going on. And if you know Kate Blakely, she can be very direct sometimes, and it was fun. It was an interesting experience for me. I wouldn't say I got heckled, but it was a growth process to become part of the culture here, and I've always been so much better off for it.
Yeah, well, you're most certainly ingrained in it now. So speaking of films, PRCA has done something that I am personally very excited about. I know Scout and I have talked about this many times, but Pro Rodeo Films, that development, that introduction is such a cool thing. But I'd love for you to just intro what is Pro Rodeo Films and where is it going from here?
Pro Rodeo Films really was Paul Woody's idea. When I took this position, I guess it's 18 months ago now, I took this position, he framed it up to me that we wanted to have our own internal film crew so we could take our perspective from where we sit here at this organization and tell the stories that come into us, because everybody in the media space comes at it from where they sit. You came from New York, you came from Florida, you came from all of these different places. And as a media person, maybe you went to film school, maybe you're self-taught, and the stories and the images that you see are from that perspective. Well, here we are, the sanctioning body and the membership organization. We have information and connections and networking that other entities don't. And really the imperative was, let's take this advantage that we have and bring that awareness to our athletes and our committees and really us as an entity in the world, in the very simplest sense, help us be known. So nothing grates us more. Maybe this should make it to the final cut, but nothing grates us more when you say you work for rodeo and they're like, oh, do you work for the PBR?
They don't know what a faux pas that
I
could
don't.
be.
I have nothing against the PBR. Okay, nothing at all. We talk to them all of the time. We kind of exist in the same space to a certain extent. But there's nothing more irritating when people say, "Oh, you work for the PBR," because it's the PRCA and we have all of these rodeo events. So we have a little PR work to do. And we've always had this PR work to do, but we kind of have always had more important work than that. We finally got to this, and really the
Sure.
idea of Pro Rodeo Films is to tell pro rodeo stories about all of our athletes and highlight our different types of events, personalities, and then really the committees too, which was a big part of this from the start. And if you look at Pro Rodeo Films, we're always including what the committees are doing. A lot of it is based about where you are and what your culture is in that place where the rodeo is happening. So getting this kind of holistic view of what our sport looks like from this perspective. And I think that at the awareness level, it's a very community building exercise. Um, and the ideas
Mm-hmm.
that we come up with in film and the stories that we write is meant to be community building, but it's also meant to capture different types of audiences, and what they might find interesting in this sport other than just what happens in the arena.
Yeah, for sure. Scout, you and I both were nodding the second she said community building. That is such a big piece of what we try to do at McFarland Productions, and kind of a core value from our marketing perspective. Kind of a cool sort of aside, and obviously we love film and we do a lot of film, but Scout, you might be able to describe this better, but Molly, who is our social media manager, and she does a few other things for us as well, but primarily social media, she's in a master's program at University of Arkansas, right, Scout? And she is doing, well, you describe her thesis, Scout, because it's pretty, I think it kind of aligns.
Okay, I'm trying to think of what it actually is, but I think that it is a study on engagement on social media for rodeos within the Southeastern Circuit. I think is maybe like the, I don't know. I
Yeah,
think
I
that's the
think
idea of it, right?
Yeah, and she was talking about like the things that we are doing to develop rodeo that most impact like increased engagement, right? So for the fan, not for the competitor, but for the fan, is it replays that impact us the most? Is it films that impact them as a fan the most? What is it that's retaining these fans from kind of the what is rodeo doing from a marketing perspective, from an in arena perspective, from a logistics perspective that helps develop a fan. Do you feel like, Amy, do you feel like Pro Rodeo Films is part of that? Because I wholeheartedly agree that it's such a great community play, and we're a fan of that.
I would agree that that is entirely tracks with what we're doing. Bringing engagement uh, to this sport and trying to think, outside of what people who are already hardcore fans would be interested in is a challenge. And you have to look at it from what other people are doing in media. What is interesting to people who are watching Formula One? If they're watching hockey,
Mm-hmm.
somebody who wouldn't necessarily watch hours and hours of rodeo, but they're very interested in that, the feel, the emotion that it gives them, the lifestyle identity that it allows them to have, all of those things. And just as an example, so there's kind of some lighthearted heckling or not so lighthearted heckling that goes on in this space. And I have to get after people sometimes about this. There's the all had no cattle, and everybody talks about that all had no cattle, and I'm like, we can't do that. That isn't who we are as an industry. That's not who we are as people. That's not the Western perspective. If you have a hat and you live on the 14th floor of a high rise in Manhattan and you want to watch the X-Bulls finals, the fact that you've never ridden a horse and you don't wear cowboy boots to work is completely inconsequential to us. If you feel like you want to identify with our sport and come in at that level and feel the feels and love that we have as just a group of people in this world, then we're here for you. And I think that Pro Rodeo Films really tracks with that a lot of what we cover are just normal people that have really amazing lives that are part of rodeo, all the way from the very grassroots rodeo committees in tiny little towns to the very top athletes. They all have stories and families and are really like everybody else.
Yeah, for sure. I think, without fans, rodeo will never grow, right? And not all fans can be competitors. So, I think the growth outside the industry, one, helps from the fan base, helps from the monetary standpoint, view rates, all those sorts of things. But it also helps us combat some of the difficulties that rodeo sometimes runs into, right? It also gives us more advocates out in the world. But I feel like, the lawyer that lives on the 14th floor of the Manhattan high rise, maybe he's looking for a little bit of freedom. I mean, I don't, have you been, I assume you've been to New York City. I've only been one time. And when I walked in there, I was like, my goodness, they stuff things in tight places. Like hotels are so slammed together and like everything is so compacted and so vertical. Like, no wonder they're in love with the West, right? No wonder they're in love with the wide open spaces. And rodeo brings a piece of that to them, right? There's a culture, there's a feeling, there's a family orientation, there's all of those things that go with the sport of rodeo. And those fans that are non-cowboys or dream of being a cowboy maybe, man, it kind of gives them an escape. Not much different than going to an NFL football game and tailgating all day, right? Like, people go to an NFL football game to escape reality, to escape, whatever the job is or the stressor in life. They go there to cheer as a team for one side or the other. It's not that different in rodeo. There's still that same cultural aspect to it that people get to feel a part of.
And it's funny that you mentioned the cultural identity. And we all sit around and talk about these things. A lot of people say, rodeo is a lifestyle and we're the only sport that is also a lifestyle. And I'm like, I don't think that you can say that. Have you ever met a really diehard Dallas Cowboys fan? Or
where their house is 90% Dallas Cowboys when you walk in. Yeah.
Have adopted this as their identity. It is their culture. It's what they do outside of the hard things in their life that they have to do.
A sense of belonging
that allows you to say, yeah, I have to go to work every day. Sometimes that's a drag. I had to drive through traffic. I had to deal with all of these things. And, sometimes life can be tough. But you have this whole cultural identity as an aside that says, this is what I love and I'm interested in, and I'm together with all of these other people. And I think rodeo does that. I think football does that. If you've been on my Facebook page, dog show people do that. It's all, for sure. It's part of all of that same thing. And, how it makes you feel is what keeps you coming back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For sure. I think that kind of going back to the film side, what is the future of Pro Rodeo Films and what's next that you're allowed to tell us?
Tell you. we have some super exciting things. So we have a warehouse that we are converting into a studio. Yes.
Oh, wow.
So we've had this long-suffering warehouse on the property here that had 35 years of documents that probably needed to be burned or dumpstered or sorted through. And
scanned in and gotten rid of.
And the whole time I worked here, we need to clean out the warehouse. Well, Paul is like, well, we need to put a studio in the warehouse. So it's been a process. The great news is we have a timeline on it. And we also have some sponsorship opportunities that I can't quite discuss yet, but they are works in progress. to get this moving. We will have two sides. So we'll have one for our podcast, which is the Shoot Bosses. And then we'll have something that's a little bit more free form for whatever types of interviews. If people want to come here and report about rodeo things from our studio, they're welcome to do that. It could be a photo studio. There's all sorts of things that are going into it. That's pretty amazing. There is that phase that we're heading towards. We're hoping to have that up and running probably in the next 6 months. It's always tricky to make a forecast on that because we have a lot of electrical work to do down there to get that done.
And studios take a lot of
electrical work, and trying to bid that out and figure out what it is that we actually need to have done that's a challenging part. But as far as equipment is concerned, we've been gathering equipment. We have a lot of great lighting equipment, cameras, all of that. So that's really the next big thing for us. We also will likely be hitting the road more frequently next year. We have some also sponsor-related opportunities. I can't underscore enough the support that our partners and sponsors have given us. So shout out to all of them. They are obviously seeing the value in what we're doing. Of course, the pie in the sky goal is to win an Emmy. And I joke with the guys, I'm like, that's what we're here for. But Rome wasn't built in a day. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So really in the truest sense that we would like to become that level of a production company that we could go to film festivals and be eligible for awards and really bring our messaging from this organization and the sport and everybody who's involved in it to a much wider audience on those types of platforms.
Yeah, what a cool goal, like to be able to it would just be so fun to watch the PRCA win an Emmy.
If you don't dream big, you're not going to ever get anywhere. So and I hear it come back to me from everybody that works in this space. We're going to win an Emmy someday. We'll win an Emmy. I don't know what story it'll be. I don't know when it'll happen, and I'm sure that it'll be something that's very interesting and compelling, and we'll all work ourselves to the bone to get it done. And it'll be amazing. But that's really just big.
Some of those are the most rewarding projects, though. Like we've done a few where it's 22-hour days for 3 months long to get it done, right? And like it's rewarding and exhausting and rewarding.
I think really getting as many eyes on the work that we're doing, and really that is the goal in the end, but it also has to be gratifying to the people who are creating it. And they are all very much invested in it, and they work very hard. A great team.
Oh yeah. I've seen them running around. They're killing it, So we, as a company, focus, you had brought up wanting to speak a little bit about 25-26 goals. And I loved that you mentioned this because that is a huge piece of how McFarland Productions operates. We're a very goal-oriented company. We do a lot of goal setting for both individuals as well as a team. And we spend time in the room with each other each year putting these together. So completely aligns with, I guess, our personal values. But tell me about PRCA's goals over 25 and 26. Obviously, we're closing in days from the 2025 season. But, on to the NFR from there. So tell us about 25 and 26.
Always, as an organization, we look at Tom Glaus would always speak to this one because we have, employee meetings and all that. Our purse money is always going up. That's always a huge goal. From the membership side of things, serving our committees and our members by increasing the amount of money that we have available to them is always a goal. So that, long-standing, be known, and monetize that on a little bit more, granular level as far as what my department is doing. I think our goal is to be more consistent in our look and feel of what we're doing throughout the year. take advantage of opportunities when we travel, not just do one thing, but do 5 things when we travel, and really have eyes in the back of our heads. Since this is new, since this is something we're just now stepping into, the learning curve is a real thing. So learning how we can maximize our travel and our opportunities with committees and athletes as we tell these stories is a huge goal. Of course, on the social media front, we're always looking for the bigger, better, badder numbers, that there'll be exponential. We don't have to go viral, but we want sustainable, heavy growth in those spaces. YouTube has been it's been my child for so very long. I would like to see our YouTube channel, which is getting close to 100,000 followers. I wanted it 500,000, and I'm not very patient about that. So there's a drive in my head. That is my 2026 goal, is to at least get a percentage of that. And it has to do with content, but YouTube is also it's very tricky to have searchability and have people find your content. There's all the algorithm.
Yeah, there's a lot of strategy.
There's a lot of strategy that comes to YouTube. So growing in that space, in my mind, for 2026 is a huge goal, because our least endemic audience is on YouTube. Our Facebook, huge. Instagram, pretty big. All of the rest of them, they have a little bit more of an endemic audience that goes with them. But YouTube, we're reaching out into all these different types of people and all these different spaces and the age demographics that we have, but they're not necessarily directly related to our core demographics. So that's a big one for me personally, to stretch on YouTube. The goal internally, with the Pro Rodeo Films team, I think that I could show you the whiteboard out here because it's got like 100 things on it. We'll have to pare that down a little bit, but really.
Scout, does that sound familiar?
We sit down in a meeting, we could do this, and this, and it's like 100 things, and it's like, guys, just kidding. Quality, not quantity.
Focus.
We've got to focus, but really just hone our skills. Use our equipment to the best of its ability, have fun, and be known. I mean, I could rattle off numbers if you wanted more like technical business goals, but being known and continuing to kind of grow this entity as something that could have its own cultural following would be 2026.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to see, something similar to guys wearing jerseys around for their favorite football player, something like that, I would love to just see that from a fan base perspective. And we certainly are getting there. I think there's some great fan base, but it's always growth.
It's always growth. It's always trying to, it's always hard for me because we're trying to get the 18 to 34-year-olds, and in the greatest admission, that is not my demographic, and I don't even touch it. I'm like, I don't speak their language. That's why I have
sometimes quite literally.
That's why we have a staff of people. But we're always thinking about ways to bring in younger people and have it become part of their lexicon, and that's a huge challenge.
Yeah, for sure. Scout, do you have any questions, or do you want to close her out with our favorite question?
I can close it out, but before I do, I just wanted to say, I think, Natalie, you can add on to this if you like, but I think the reason that we, as McFarland Productions, love Pro Rodeo Films so much is because Natalie's favorite saying, probably right behind "I need more coffee," is it's not our job to be famous, but it's our job to make our clients famous. And I think that just Pro Rodeo Films, you are not only promoting obviously pro rodeo, but you're doing so by promoting the athletes, you're promoting the committees and the little itty bitty towns that have a PRCA rodeo. Obviously there are big towns that have a PRCA rodeo too, but I just love that. I watched one earlier this morning preparing for this podcast, and I think it was in I think
Yeah,
Abbeville, Kansas, I think. And I'm like, I have to go. Like, I want to go there so bad. It was like, the story was just so sweet and so cute. And like, I loved it. And I've been a lifelong rodeo fan. Like, my family grew up riding bulls, and then now we raise bucking bulls. So like, I've been in rodeo my whole life.
Multi-generational Spurs members.
So like, I got started in marketing because of rodeo. So like, I've been a rodeo fan my whole life. But I think those fans are sometimes a little bit harder to reach, and maybe a little bit harder to get to go to rodeos like outside their hometown or outside the NFR. But now I'm like, I have Abbeville, Kansas on my go to a rodeo there list. So I just love that. I think it really hits home, and it brings a good story to, people's
mission
TV.
accomplished.
Anyways.
Yeah, it was our mission accomplished. Thank you. It speaks totally to the point of why we do those pieces and why we highlight the committees. It's like, I don't know where I'm going to go on vacation, but next year, this time I'm going to Abbeville and I'm going to get some of that pie. No,
that is kind of what told me. So that was, yeah. It's like, what? I did love that. Anyways, to close out, we always close with, what is your soft launch to Monday, which is essentially just asking, how do you reset for the week? How do you prepare for the week ahead? We release these podcast episodes on Sundays at 6 p.m. So this is just like a soft launch to your Monday. So I'd love to hear how you prep for the week.
Do you mean in a professional or a personal sense?
It can be either.
It can be both. Yeah.
A lot of times on the weekends, I'm watching the Cowboy Channel. So even though we are a Monday through Friday, business here at the office, none of us work Monday through Friday. We work every day. So a lot of times, if I haven't been watching rodeo on a Sunday, I will go read whatever happened over the weekend on prorodeo.com. Sometimes I'll hit some highlights. I'll watch whatever's going on the Cowboy Channel as far as news coverage is concerned. And then I hit social media and kind of go through what the vibe is from the weekend and who's saying what about all of the amazing things that could happen. Also, as a caveat, we're all texting each other internally about what's going on. So like when someone's injured or something exciting has happened, my phone is blowing up, and that's usually a Sunday. That's a Sunday. I'm still staring at my phone, waiting for all of that stuff to come through. For Monday, I meet with my staff on Monday mornings just so we can get together and kind of understand what our challenges are for that week. And I always make sure that I think about on Sunday, what my challenges will be for the week or what I have going on as far as my work is concerned, because I have a very different job from them. In addition to Rodeo Films, I have work that I do with the Cowboy Channel. I have a lot of fingers and a lot of pies. So I try and remember that when I'm managing people, as I'm getting ready to, that, I tell them that I'm working with them too, that I'm not just, making random demands to get stuff done. So that's always a little something that I go through in my mind to get ready. On the other side of things, I walk in a counterclockwise circle on my 5 acres with all my dogs and breathe deeply and let ideas come my direction. That would be my peaceful, happy place that I kind of go through if the weather is good enough. And just have a couple of quiet moments and look at Pikes Peak, which I can see from my backyard. And, breathe deep and realize how lucky I am to, work in this space and have, while I have duties, I also have the ability to be very creative in my role and be grateful for that and try and understand how we can all take that and run with it in the coming week. So I guess that answers the question. My stuff launched into Monday. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, I don't really.
Yeah, that's great. What we didn't talk about
Oh.
were your dogs. And I feel like your dogs are such a big part of your life. And I just love seeing the videos that you post, especially when they're just
Yeah.
being silly. Show dogs being silly. There's something about it that just gets me. But tell us a little bit about your dogs.
If you're following me on Facebook or anything else, that's kind of the biggest part of my personal social media. But I've been showing dogs since I was 12, and it's the same breed of dog. It's Weimaraners. I think at this point I have close to 60 champions, AKC champions. I've had best in specialty show winners, junior, senior, and master hunter dogs. And it's really, earlier in my career, I would have preferred to just run off with the circus and be a professional dog handler. So I always told people, you're going to see me on Westminster someday. I'm going to win Best in Show at Westminster. The realities of life kind of set in, and I get up every morning and come to work because I have to support the dogs. I don't know how else to put it. They're a huge, we talk about cultural identity outside of my professional rodeo life, which is huge. It's all the dog show people. I've known some of these folks for, I don't know, 35 years. It's been my whole life. They're a whole family for me out there. So, and then the dogs themselves, it's always a lot of fun to have them and do what I do with them.
Yeah, I feel like Weimaraners have such a big personality. I showed dogs a little bit, but mostly border collies, so very different game. But those Weimaraners, I always watch the handlers with them, and I don't know, they just seem like they've got such a great personality. Like they can be business, but they're also like, goofy and fun and silly.
There's a couple of professional handlers that I know, and one in particular, she's shown Weimaraners all of her show career, and she says, they're the hardest dog to show. And in the sense that they are, they're so smart that they're complicated and opinionated, and they don't have a moment where they just check out. They're just always engaged and looking and wondering what's going to be next. And sometimes smart things are more complicated.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially if they're opinionated on top of it.
If you read my social, it's like sometimes I talk about just how difficult they are, but you just have to laugh at the stuff that they come up with, because it's like I feel like I've got little kids running around, and the things that they deconstruct and come up with in and of themselves. I don't know. It's the inmates are running the asylum at my house.
I love that. Well, Amy, I cannot thank you enough for coming on the podcast, taking the time to chat with us. Such a big fan of you, working with you, and then all the work that you're doing for Rodeo Films, everything that you do with Cowboy Channel and beyond. And I just admire the work that you're doing and pushing PRCA forward, and really the general sport of rodeo and the lifestyle too. I think it's big. I think you're doing a lot. So we really appreciate you.
I appreciate the opportunity to sit down and talk about it. I really try and stay in the shadows for the most part.
That's why I emailed you. I was like, who at PRCA we should call? It should be Amy.
Well, I do love talking about it, but I kind of like to let my team, just take a moment and realize that they've done a lot of really hard work. So I don't like to get in front of that. I'd like to say that, they're working very hard. I'm back here, I feel like I'm the worker bee in the background, just organizing and keeping things moving. But I do appreciate the opportunity to chat. It's been good, and it's been fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks.
Yeah, thank
thanks
you.
So much.
We'll talk to you guys.